Have you ever felt your heart sink when the man you thought loved you suddenly grew distant, his silence louder than any words, leaving you wondering what you did wrong? I've heard this story so often from folks in their 50s, 60s, and beyond, when the sting of being ignored feels like a personal rejection, a sign that maybe you're not enough, that maybe he doesn't care after all. But what if I told you that his distance might not be what it seems, that it could be a silent sign of something deeper, something he might not even understand himself? I've spent decades studying the teachings of Carl Jung, the brilliant mind behind analytical psychology, and I've learned a truth that can change the way you see this pain. When a man truly loves you, his withdrawal might not mean he's pulling away from you. It might mean he's wrestling with his own inner world, a world stirred by the depth of his feelings, especially as we age, when relationships carry the weight of our past and the hope for something real. In this video, we'll explore why a man who loves you might grow silent, how his silence reflects a hidden struggle within, and how you can find your own strength in the face of it, all through Jung's profound wisdom. A wisdom that helps us see love not just as joy, but as a mirror to our deepest selves. His silence isn't always indifference. It's often a sign of an inner conflict he can't yet name, a conflict that love has awakened in him. I've seen this play out in so many lives, where a man's sudden distance feels like a cold rejection, leaving you to fill the silence with doubts, wondering if you said something wrong, if you're too much, if he's lost interest. But Jung taught us that love, especially the kind that touches the soul, doesn't just bring light, it brings shadows too. The hidden parts of ourselves we've buried, the fears we've avoided, the wounds we've never healed. And when a man truly loves, that love can stir those shadows in him, making him pull back, not because he doesn't care, but because he cares so much that it scares him, because it demands a change he's not ready to face. I found that this withdrawal often comes from a place of fear, not of you, but of what loving you means for him, of the vulnerability it requires, of the parts of himself he's spent a lifetime hiding, parts that love brings to the surface, parts that make him feel small, confused, out of control, and so he steps back, seeking safety in silence, trying to protect the fragile identity he's built, an identity that love threatens to unravel. This isn't about you being unworthy. It's about him facing a battle within, a battle between his desire to love you fully and his fear of losing himself in that love. A battle that Jung called the individuation journey, where true love becomes a mirror, reflecting not just joy, but the shadows we've kept in the dark. A mirror that holds the key to understanding his silence and to finding your own path to a love that's conscious, deep, and true. A love that starts with understanding the hidden forces at play, both in him and within yourself. That silence might reflect a hidden battle within him, a struggle stirred by the depth of his feelings, but there's a deeper layer to this mystery, one that shapes the way he sees you. Because when a man truly loves, he often doesn't just see you as you are, he sees you through the lens of what Carl Jung called his anima, the inner feminine part of his soul, making you a mirror for everything he desires, fears, and longs to understand about himself. I've worked with so many folks in their 50s, 60s, and beyond, and I've seen how this can catch both the man and the woman off guard, leaving her confused when his love feels intense one moment and distant the next. But Jung taught us that this isn't about you failing or being too much. It's about the powerful, often unconscious forces at play in his heart, forces that love awakens in ways he might not be ready to face. I found that the anima is like a hidden blueprint in a man's psyche, shaped by his earliest experiences with the feminine, maybe his mother, his first love, or the women who left a mark on his life. And it becomes the image of everything he finds mysterious, beautiful, and emotional. Everything he's been taught to push away in himself, because society often tells men to value strength, control, and reason over sensitivity, intuition, and vulnerability, traits that are part of his inner feminine, traits he's learned to bury deep. When he falls in love with you, he doesn't just see you. He sees this anima projected onto you. You become the embodiment of his longing, his dreams, his unhealed wounds. A mirror reflecting the parts of himself he's never fully explored, the parts he's been afraid to feel, and that can be both enchanting and terrifying for him. I've seen how this projection starts with a kind of magic. He might put you on a pedestal, seeing you as perfect, as the answer to everything he's been searching for, because you represent the softness, the depth, the connection he's been taught to suppress in himself. But as time goes on, as he gets closer to you, that magic can turn into fear, because the closer he gets, the more he's confronted with those buried parts of himself, the vulnerability he's avoided, the emotions he doesn't know how to name, the chaos he's been taught to control. And that's when he might pull back, not because he doesn't love you, but because loving you means facing himself in a way he's never had to before. Jung believed that this anima projection is a natural part of love, a way the psyche seeks wholeness, because by loving you, he's trying to reconnect with the feminine within himself, the part that feels, that dreams, that surrenders. But if he's not ready to integrate that part, if he's still caught in the idea that he has to be the strong, rational man society expects, that connection can feel threatening. Like he's losing control, like he's losing the identity he's built over a lifetime. And so he withdraws, seeking safety in distance, in silence, in the familiar comfort of keeping his walls up. This projection isn't your fault, but it's a powerful part of why he might grow silent, because you've become more than just a partner. You've become a mirror to his soul, reflecting back the beauty and the pain he's kept hidden. A mirror that can be both a gift and a challenge for him and for you, as you navigate what this love awakens in you both, leading you toward a deeper, more conscious connection, one where you can both grow into the truest versions of yourselves. The anima projection turns you into a mirror for the man who loves you, reflecting his deepest desires and fears. But that mirror can also stir a powerful conflict within him. Because when a man truly loves, the intensity of that love can awaken a fear so deep that it drives him to pull away. Not because he doesn't care, but because he's afraid of losing himself in the very connection he craves. I've seen this struggle in so many relationships, working with folks in their 50s, 60s, and beyond, where a man's sudden distance leaves the woman he loves feeling confused, hurt, wondering what changed, wondering if she's to blame. But Carl Jung taught us that this withdrawal often comes from a fear of losing his identity, a fear that true love, with all its depth and vulnerability, might unravel the self he spent a lifetime building. I've found that for many men, especially those shaped by a world that values strength, control, and independence, love can feel like a double-edged sword. On one hand, it's everything they've longed for, a connection that touches their soul, a softness that they've been taught to suppress. But on the other hand, it demands a surrender they've never been prepared for, a surrender that feels like a threat to the walls they've built, walls that have kept them safe, walls that have defined who they think they are. Jung explained that when a man falls deeply in love, he's not just falling for you, he's falling into a journey of individuation, a process where he must face the parts of himself he's kept hidden, the emotions he's buried, the vulnerability he's been taught to see as weakness. And that journey can be terrifying because it asks him to let go of the control he's clung to open up in ways he's never learned how, to risk being seen in all his rawness, his imperfections, his fears. I've seen how this fear of losing himself can make a man pull back, even when his love for you is real, because loving you means facing the unknown within himself. It means risking the identity he's crafted over years, the identity of the strong, rational man who doesn't need anyone, who doesn't feel too much, who doesn't let emotions take the lead. And when that identity feels threatened, when love asks him to be more than that, to be vulnerable, to be open, to be whole, he might retreat, seeking safety and distance and silence and the familiar comfort of keeping his walls up. I found that this withdrawal isn't about you being too much or not enough. It's about him grappling with the depth of what he feels, a depth that challenges everything he's been taught about what it means to be a man, a depth that makes him feel like he's losing control, like he's dissolving into something he can't predict, something he can't contain. And so he steps back, hoping to protect himself, hoping to hold on to the identity he knows, even if it means stepping back from the love he feels. He fear. This fear isn't your fault. It's a reflection of his inner struggle, a struggle between his longing to love you fully and his fear of what that love might cost him, a struggle that can lead to silence, to distance, to a withdrawal that feels like rejection. But that struggle is also an opportunity for him to grow, for you to find your own strength, and for both of you to build a love that's not just deep, but conscious, a love that honors the journey you're both on, a love that helps you both become more whole. Love acts as a mirror, reflecting a man's shadow and stirring the wounds he's buried, often leading him to withdraw even when his feelings for you are deep, because the fear of losing himself can be so overwhelming. But there's an even deeper force at play in his withdrawal, one that Jung called the shadow, the hidden parts of his soul that love brings to the surface, turning your relationship into a mirror that reflects not just his light, but his deepest wounds. Wounds that might be too painful for him to face. I've seen this dynamic unfold for so many folks in their 50s, 60s, and beyond, where a man's sudden silence or distance feels like a rejection, leaving the woman he loves grappling with her own doubts, wondering why he's changed, wondering if she's not enough to keep him close. But Jung taught us that when a man truly loves, that love doesn't just awaken joy, it awakens his shadow, the repressed emotions, fears, and traumas he's buried over a lifetime. And that awakening can be so overwhelming that he pulls back, not because he doesn't care, but because he's confronting a part of himself he's never fully known. I found that the shadow is like a vault in the psyche, holding everything a man has been taught to hide. Maybe the anger he wasn't allowed to express, the sadness he was told to swallow, the vulnerability he learned to see as weakness. The neediness he fears will make him less of a man. All the parts of himself that don't fit the image of strength and control he's been taught to uphold. And when he falls in love with you, when that love touches his soul, it's like a key unlocking that vault, bringing those hidden parts into the light, parts he might not even recognize, parts that make him feel raw, exposed, out of control. Jung believed that true love is a mirror, reflecting not just the best of us, but the parts we've kept in the dark. And I've seen how this mirror can be both beautiful and painful for a man, because loving you means facing his wounds, the abandonment he felt as a child, the shame he carried for not being enough, the fear of being seen in his imperfection. And those wounds can feel like a tidal wave crashing over the walls he's built to protect himself, walls that have kept him safe, but also kept him from truly feeling, truly connecting, truly loving with his whole heart. I've found that when this shadow emerges, a man might withdraw, not because he doesn't love you, but because he doesn't know how to handle the storm within him, the storm of emotions he's never learned to name, the storm of fears he's never learned to face. And so he steps back, seeking safety in silence, in distance, trying to regain the control he feels slipping away, trying to protect himself from the transformation that love demands, a transformation that asks him to heal, to grow, to become whole. I've seen how this can feel devastating for the woman on the receiving end. His silence might make you feel invisible, like you're not worth fighting for. But this isn't about your worth. It's about the battle he's fighting within. A battle between the love he feels for you and the fear of what that love will reveal. A battle that Jung called individuation, the journey to integrate his shadow, to embrace the parts of himself he's pushed away, to become a man who can love fully without losing himself, without hiding from what he feels. This process isn't your fault, but it's a powerful part of why he might grow silent, because your love has become a mirror to his wounds, a mirror that shows him the pain he's carried, the fears he's buried, the man he could become if he's brave enough to face it all. An opportunity for you too. A chance to look at your own reflections, to find your own strength, to build a love that's not just deep, but conscious. A love that honors the journey you're both on. A love that helps you both heal and grow into the truest versions of yourselves. That silence, as painful as it feels, holds a powerful opportunity for you. Because as a woman, you don't have to let his distance define your worth. You can become an awakened woman, one who refuses to take his silence personally, and instead uses it as a chance to look within, to heal, and to grow into a stronger version of yourself, a version who knows she's enough, no matter what he chooses to do. I've worked with so many women in their 50s, 60s, and beyond, and I've seen how a man's sudden withdrawal can cut deep, leaving you feeling invisible, unworthy, like you're not enough to keep him close. But Jung taught us that his silence often has more to do with his inner struggle than with anything you've done. And I've found that understanding this can shift everything. It can free you from the spiral of self-doubt, helping you see that his distance isn't a reflection of your value, but a reflection of the battle he's fighting within himself, a battle with his shadow, with his fears, with the vulnerability that love has stirred in him. I've seen how easy it is to take his silence personally, to let it echo old wounds, maybe the fear of abandonment you've carried since childhood, the belief that you're not lovable, the ache of feeling unseen. And in those moments, you might find yourself chasing after him, trying to fix things, trying to prove your worth. But Jung believed that every meaningful connection is an opportunity for individuation, a chance to become more of who you truly are. And I've found that his withdrawal can be a turning point for you, a moment to stop looking for answers in him and start looking for them in yourself, to ask, what is this silence stirring in me? What old pain is it bringing up? What do I need to heal within myself? I've seen how powerful this shift can be, because when you stop personalizing his silence, when you stop seeing it as a measure of your worth, you take back your power. You stop letting his struggle define you, and you start focusing on your own journey, on the wounds you've carried, the patterns you've repeated, the ways you've looked for validation outside yourself. And in that space, you begin to heal, not just for him, but for you. Because you deserve a love that doesn't leave you feeling small, a love that honors who you are, a love that starts with the way you see yourself. I've found that an awakened woman doesn't try to fix a man's silence. She doesn't beg for his presence or try to change him. She respects that his withdrawal is part of his own journey, a journey he must walk on his own. And instead of chasing after him, she turns inward. She listens to her own heart. She asks herself what this moment is teaching her. Maybe it's showing you where you've given too much, where you've lost yourself in the relationship, where you've looked to him to fill a void that only you can fill. And as you sit with those questions, as you face your own shadows, your own fears, your own unhealed wounds, you start to find a strength you didn't know you had. A strength that comes from knowing you are enough, with or without him. A strength that lets you stand in your own light, even when he's not there to see it. I've seen how this awakening changes everything for a woman. It frees her from the need to prove her worth. It helps her let go of the pain of feeling invisible. And it opens the door to a love that's conscious, a love that's not about filling each other's voids, but about growing together as whole, authentic selves. Because when you stop taking his silence personally, when you start focusing on your own healing, you create a space for a deeper connection, not just with him, but with yourself. A connection that's rooted in self-love, in clarity, in the kind of strength that can weather any storm. Conscious love begins when you stop taking his silence personally and start focusing on your own growth. But this journey isn't just yours to walk, because when love touches the soul, it becomes a call to conscious love, a shared path of individuation, where both of you are invited to face your shadows, to grow, and to build a connection that's rooted in authenticity, not illusion. A connection that can weather the storms of silence and emerge even stronger. I've seen this unfold for so many couples in their 50s, 60s, and beyond, where the pain of distance in a relationship becomes a turning point, not for separation, but for a deeper kind of love. A love that's not about escaping into each other, but about growing into the truest versions of yourselves, together or apart. And I've learned that Carl Jung's wisdom offers a powerful lens to understand this, showing us that love isn't just a feeling, it's a mirror that reflects our deepest selves, asking us to heal, to evolve, to become whole. Because when you love someone deeply, that love will inevitably stir the parts of you that you've kept hidden, the parts you've been afraid to face, the parts that need healing to make you whole. I've found that conscious love starts with recognizing that your relationship is more than a source of comfort. It's a sacred space for individuation, a process Jung described as the journey to integrate all parts of yourself, the light and the shadow, the strengths and the wounds, the desires and the fears. And for the man, this journey begins with the silence you felt, his withdrawal, a sign that love has awakened his shadow, his fears of vulnerability, his wounds from the past. And while that can feel like a rejection, it's also an invitation for him to look within, to face the parts of himself he's avoided, to ask, what am I afraid of? Why do I feel like I'm losing myself? How can I love without losing control? And as he walks that path, as he learns to integrate his shadow, to embrace his inner feminine, to heal the wounds that make him pull away, he becomes a man who can love more fully, more openly, more authentically. A man who can show up for you in a way that's not driven by fear, but by wholeness. I've found that this journey isn't just his to walk, it's yours too. Because just as his love for you awakens his shadow, your love for him awakens yours. Maybe it's the fear of abandonment you've carried since childhood, the need to be seen that you've buried, the belief that you're not enough unless someone stays. And in the silence of his withdrawal, you're invited to face those shadows, to ask, what do I need to heal? Where have I looked for validation outside myself? How can I love from a place of wholeness, not lack? I've seen how powerful this shared journey can be, because when both partners commit to individuation, to facing their shadows, to healing their wounds, they create a love that's conscious, a love where you're not trying to fix each other, not trying to fill each other's voids, but supporting each other's growth, celebrating each other's truth, building a connection that's not based on projection, but on presence, on authenticity, on the kind of love that lets you both be fully yourselves, even in the moments of silence, even in the moments of struggle. I've found that conscious love isn't about avoiding pain. It's about embracing it as a teacher, seeing every challenge as an opportunity to grow, to heal, to become more of who you truly are. And as you both walk this path, as you both face your shadows and integrate your inner worlds, you create a relationship that's not just deep, but transformative. A relationship that helps you both become whole. A relationship that's ready for the kind of love you both deserve. A love that's as honest as it is beautiful, as steady as it is free. Conscious love invites both partners to walk the path of individuation, facing their shadows and growing into their truest selves. But for you as a woman who's felt the sting of a man's silence, this journey leads to a profound awakening, a power that comes from choosing to love from wholeness, not lack. A power that transforms not just your relationship, but the way you see yourself, allowing you to create a love that's as authentic as it is liberating, a love that reflects the strength you've found within. I've seen this transformation in so many women in their 50s, 60s, and beyond. Women who've walked through the pain of being ignored by a man who loves them, who've felt the ache of wondering why he pulled away, but who've chosen to rise above that pain, to find a strength within themselves that doesn't depend on his presence, a strength that Carl Jung would call the awakened feminine, a strength that comes from knowing your worth, from healing your wounds, from choosing to love yourself first. Because when you love from wholeness, you create a foundation for a love that's conscious, a love that doesn't demand, doesn't cling, but simply exists as a reflection of the light you've cultivated within, a light that shines no matter who's there to see it. I've found that an awakened woman doesn't try to force a man to stay. She doesn't beg for his attention or try to fix his inner struggle, because she understands that his silence is part of his journey, a journey he must walk on his own. And instead of losing herself in the pain of his withdrawal, she turns that pain into wisdom, asking herself, what am I learning about myself? Where have I looked for love outside of me? How can I love myself more deeply in this moment? And in that reflection, she finds a power that's unshakable, a power that comes from knowing she is enough, with or without him, a power that lets her choose love from a place of fullness, not from a place of need, a power that sets her free to love in a way that's honest, that's whole, that's true, a way that honors her own heart first. I've seen how this awakening changes the way a woman shows up in her relationships. She no longer clings to a man out of fear. She no longer lets his silence make her feel small, because she's learned to hold space for herself, to honor her own needs, to stand in her own light. And that shift in her energy can be felt. It can even inspire the man to look within, to face his own shadows, to grow into a version of himself who can meet her in that space of conscious love. But even if he doesn't, even if he's not ready, she knows she deserves a love that sees her, that honors her, that doesn't leave her in confusion, and she's willing to wait for that love. Not out of desperation, but out of self-respect, because she's learned to love herself first, to be her own source of wholeness, to choose a love that reflects the woman she's become, a woman who's awake, who's whole, who's free to be herself fully. So let's bring this journey together. We've explored how a man's silence often reflects his inner conflict, how his anima projection turns you into a mirror for his soul, how his fear of losing himself can drive him to pull away, how love awakens his shadow, how you can rise above his silence by not taking it personally, how conscious love invites you both to grow through individuation, and how awakening to your own power lets you choose love from wholeness, a choice that transforms everything, a choice that leads to a love that's as deep as it is true, a love that honors the journey you've both walked, a love that sets you both free to be your truest selves, a love that's yours to create, to cherish, to hold. I invite you to reflect. Where can you choose love from wholeness today? Maybe it's in letting go of the need to fix him. Maybe it's in loving yourself a little more. Maybe it's in trusting that you deserve a love that sees you fully. Because every step you take toward awakening is a step toward a love that's conscious, a love that's yours to build. Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear how this resonates with you. Because this channel isn't just about sharing wisdom, it's about connecting, about growing together, about honoring the love we all deserve, the love that starts with ourselves, a love that's truly conscious. And if this video touched you, if it reminded you of your own power, please give it a like, subscribe, to Ageless Philosophies and share it with someone who might need to hear this today. Here's to a life where you love from wholeness, where you awaken to your own strength, and where you create a love that's as conscious, as beautiful as you've always dreamed it could be. A love that's yours, fully, deeply, forever.